I know this is going to date me a little bit, but I was a child of the 1970s, and I remember there was a hit song back then called "Breaking Up is Hard to Do." And that's what we're going to talk about today.
If you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, be sure to subscribe to LilyTube and click the bell so you'll get notifications of each new video. Be sure to like and comment. We'd love to hear from you.
So Cathy, I know you have some profound thoughts on this subject. Why is it hard to break up?
Because it sucks. It was my least favorite part of dating, and we wrote an entire chapter in Intentional Courtship on relationship transitioning, and we called it transitioning because I did not like the word breakup. I did not like the word dumped. Once you have a relationship with someone, even if it's casual, even if you've only gone on one date, you have that relationship. And for me, if that relationship needs a transition of some kind, either you're leading towards more commitment or away from it, it just means a conversation needs to be had, a mature conversation between two adults.
Now, Cathy's best friend has an interesting perspective on this. She actually said that maybe transitioning doesn't capture the full impact of what's happened. If it's just a transition, maybe it doesn't seem harsh enough to describe how bad you feel when you're broken up with.
And I completely understand that. So if you're a fan of breakup dumped, keep using it. I just prefer transitioning because it's the kind of respectful interaction that I wanted to create in my dating relationships.
So let's talk about that, because you had a very kind of specific process about how you liked breaking up, if not that you liked breaking up.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. But I think one of the worst things that people can do, I think it's so ridiculously immature, ghosting. That is the worst. I had a few people, when I said I didn't want to date them anymore, respond poorly. Maybe even F-bombed me, or, threw a fit or a temper tantrum, or, just really behaved badly. I usually think, first of all, okay, I made the right choice here.
Ooh, I dodged a bullet.
And the other thing I would think is, I can kind of see why people ghost. I can see why they do it, but that does not make it right.
So let's define ghosting. Ghosting is where you simply disappear. You stop answering the other person's phone calls and texts and other forms of communication, like a ghost.
I think this can even be wrong in friendships. If you have a friendship where there's this, mutual expectation that you call every day. I don't mean that we can't have some natural ebbs and flows to relationship transitions that don't all need a conversation. But when you're intentionally trying to avoid someone that you used to be in touch with more, I think it's important to have a conversation so they understand what's happening.
Yeah, and it's respectful, particularly if the relationship has gone on for a while, to at least show up and be willing to help give that other person closure. The serious relationships that I had in my single years, when any of those ended, it always felt just as bad as my divorce. But it was that same kick in the gut feeling.
For me, it kind of depended on how intense the relationship was and how much hope I had for it.
Yeah, it wasn't like that if I dated someone 2 or 3 times or something, but if it was an ongoing relationship for quite a while, even if I was the one calling it off, it really hurt.
Well, and that's something I'd like to point out, that even if you're the person doing the transitioning or the breakup, it is okay to feel hurt. It is okay to have pain. It doesn't mean that just because you made the decision doesn't mean you're not going to have feelings about it.
Cathy, I saw a video a couple years ago where Michelle Weiner Davis talked about how they've actually done functional MRIs of people going through an unwanted divorce. And those people's brains light up in exactly the same places as someone enduring physical pain. Now, that is not true of any other emotion, not depression, sadness, anger, go down the list of other negative emotions. Their brains don't light up in those areas. Only with rejection. Rejection hurts. It actually physically hurts.
I know for me, I felt it in my heart. So much pressure and pain. At one point, I felt, how could it be possible to live through this?
So we understand why when people are breaking up, particularly if it's been a meaningful relationship to the two people, why that hurts, particularly for the one that didn't make the decision. And they may be tempted to really give that other person a piece of their mind about how you never really gave me a chance, or, go down the list of things that someone might say. One thing I want to suggest: for a relationship to work, two people have to choose in. It doesn't work if one person is just going through the relationship to please the other one. In fact, that's very dysfunctional. For whatever reason, if the other person is chosen out, even if you think the reasons are dumb, even if they chose out because they don't like the color of your eyes, that's still their choice to make. Responding with hostility and bitterness is never a good idea. There are, a relatively defined circle of people in the mid-singles community. And if you get a reputation as somebody who's bitter when they break up or who becomes hostile, people will say, oh, keep me away from that. And you get a reputation that makes it harder for you to find dating partners in the future.
Integrity is what you do when people aren't looking. So for your own integrity, however you want to show up, make sure that's how you're showing up. Because if it was really love, then you'll continue loving them even if they chose something you didn't want.
Whether you're the person who is receiving the breakup or who has made that decision, it's important to be classy. Maintain your personal dignity, and that is done much better by receiving any bad news with calmness, but not to become aggressive or hostile.
And give bad news with kindness, respect, and sensitivity.
Cathy, you had a very specific kind of process you would go through in breaking up with someone, or transitioning them, as you preferred to call it.
It was rarely convenient. It was often on holidays, which was the worst time to hurt someone's feelings.
She broke up with me 2 days before Christmas.
Oh, yep. Jeff is the recipient of one of those inconvenient times, but when I felt that's what was needed to happen, I couldn't not do it. I decided to take advantage of any time there was a holiday, and sometimes even when there wasn't. I like to give gifts. It gave an opportunity to soften the blow. And I know that Jeff didn't like that anyway, but...
One thing I'm going to suggest, if you're having to deliver the bad news to your partner, I want you to be sensitive to whether they need a longer conversation for closure, or whether this is such a painful situation they just want to excuse themselves and go home. If you're the one delivering bad news, kind of let that be that person's decision. Don't insist on a long conversation if they don't really want that. But if they do, then go ahead and accommodate that.
And if you're able to stay friends, however distant that needs to be, it can sometimes lead to really amazing results. We actually have a marriage that came from someone who was very classy from a breakup, who then got to know one of my dear friends, and they fell in love.
And even Cathy and myself broke up. We were friends for a year, and then I proposed that we start to date for marriage.
And I accepted in great part because of the friendship we built. And to be honest, he did call me up and give me a piece of his mind. He did not express himself with composure at that time. But ultimately, he did prove himself over that following year to be a really good and true friend. And even when he wrote me that letter to consider more than friendship again, he did so with this new, unconditional, real love that fundamentally different than it was before.
Before I wrote that letter, there were 3 different women I was kind of seeing. I met one for a weekend, and we had a nice weekend together, and she broke up with me right after that. I asked her why, and she said, I think you're still in love with Cathy. You need to go ahead and pursue that.
And she knew me because she had, through a mutual friend of ours, reached out to me and said, hey, what do you think about Jeff? And because Jeff and I had this friendship, I said, he's a great guy, go for it.
This story illustrates the point that people in the mid-singles community talk.
Even out of state.
They check on, is this person safe? Are they a good person for me to date? Am I wasting my time? If I had not been Cathy's friend, the other woman would not have given me a chance. If Cathy had given me a bad recommendation, that would have been it. It's important, even though I ended up with Cathy and not with the other girl, that we treat our former dating partners with respect, and even that we speak well of them, not bitterly behind their backs and talking about all the things they did wrong in the relationship.
So, breaking up can be hard to do, but it's worth doing right. And we encourage you not to ever ghost, but to have mature conversations with your dating partners and also with your friendships and even your family members if you need to make a change in the status quo.
If you liked this advice, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, anytime is a great time for more love in your life. Thank you for listening.